Well, hello, writers. Welcome to episode number 454 of Ink in Your Veins. Today, I am here with Tasha Coryell, and we have a fabulous conversation about not being precious about our work and about being incredibly stubborn, and something that I love talking about, which is the only way out is through. Super inspiring. Please stick around for that. What has been going on around here? Right now, I am back in the revisions for The Fix. I'm just dipping my toe in. I actually hadn't looked at this book. It's a memoir of recovery. Hadn't looked at it in more than a year since I put it away to work on other things. And it is astonishing how time slips away like that. I had written it, revised it, hired an editor, revised it again, talked to my agent, decided on another revision. And these are on top of all the revisions that I did for myself before getting to stages where I could send it off my desk. So I am excited to get back to it. I'm excited to get it to a place where maybe I could stop working on it someday. That would be great. But it's been really enjoyable to actually be back in it. I'm hitting my goals of being back in it. I'm also hitting my goals of updating some old backlist. I'm working on the firefighter books right now, and their romances are older romances that were set in a world I used to write in called Darling Bay. And I told you about this last week. I was talking about Publisher Rocket. And I have to tell you, I'm going to push Publisher Rocket, but this is not even intentional. I didn't even mean to, but I'm going to find where I dropped these images. So I updated keywords and search terms, keywords and categories over at Amazon for the first book, for all the books, actually, all four of the books. And I want to tell you that right before I did that, like the day before I did all this, the first book in the series was ranking at 3,800 free in the store. So of all free books, that book was 3,800, 3,851 in rank. So 3,850 books were being given away on Amazon for free at a higher, faster rate than that book. It was number 147 in Western and Frontier romance. It is neither Western nor Frontier. And it was number 710 in contemporary romance. The day after I adjusted the categories and keywords, it was ranking at 775 free in the Kindle store, not 3,800. It's 775. So you can tell from that the volume of free books going out, being downloaded, has gone up a lot, which is what I want, because I want people to read the first book and then they read the other three books and pay for them. It was at number 3 in firefighter romance ebooks, which is amazing. I had never had my books in there, and this was done with categories and with packing some of the keywords with the firefighter words the way Publisher Rocket told me to do. It was ranking, so it was number 3 in there, number 32 in small town romance. Number 32 in small town romance? Yes, please. And number 50 in romantic comedy. I did nothing. I did nothing but change categories and keywords. I didn't change the cover. I did change the blurb a little bit. I tweaked the blurb to make it a little more catchy. If you want to look at this is a book called Blaze under my name, Rachael Herron. And it shot like that just from adjusting those. And if you want to, where did I put this? RachelHerron.com/ads is the way into Publisher Rocket that will get you the free ads course from them. So rachelherron.com/ads if you want to do that. But this is really not an ad read for them, although I am an affiliate because I love them. I just couldn't believe the velocity of change that happened just from adjusting those. I have a good friend, and she knows who she is, who sells a ton of books on Amazon by doing no social media. She is just really good at mining Publisher Rocket and adjusting keywords and making her books. Number one, they're fantastic, well-written, gorgeous books. And she's always tweaking the metadata behind the scenes. And that's how she sells her books. So it can be done. No social media. That's how she does it. Let's see. What else did I want to share with you? So that's what I've been doing, working on back matter still, or backlist, still doing that. I wanted to share with you a Patreon coaching question that came in from Kylo. Remember that if you are on my Patreon at the $5 a month level or up, you can ask me any questions and I will answer you. And Kylo asked me a good question here, a good emotional, difficult question. So let's jump into it. Kylo says, I have a question that is as much an emotion question as a writing question, but I feel like I've gotten great advice about both from your podcast, and I would love to hear your answer. My mother died a month and a half ago. That's not what I'm asking about. It's just background. Not long before my mother went into the hospital, she beta read the book I wrote for Nano last year. It's been 6 months since I finished it. I never did read it all the way through, even while I was writing it, and I would like to start revisions on it eventually, if not immediately. I've loaded it onto my Kindle, but have thus far found myself completely unable to open the document, let alone read it through. My question is, what do I do about my lost novel? Do I just let it sit longer and hope the feelings either fade or evolve? Should I be asking this question of my therapist? Do I just try to bully on through? Okay, first of all, thank you for asking, and I'm so sorry for your great loss. The loss of my mother was one of the biggest losses of my life so far, and there's no easy way to move through that kind of pain, that kind of loss. What I'm guessing you are feeling is that residual grief that comes with anything that is attached to that person we have lost. For some people, we feel it in music. We can't listen to certain kinds of music for a very long time. We can't eat or think about the kinds of food that we used to eat or prepare with that person. It's a really, again, I'm not a therapist, obviously, but it's a really natural human response for the body and the brain to protect us without alerting us that that's what it's doing. My brain does not come down and say, you know what, that's going to be painful for you. So why don't you do something else for a little while you're healing? My brain just says, don't touch it. It's a hot stove. Don't go near it. Here, do something else. Look at Instagram. What you are doing by having this real visceral inability to go close to the book is completely natural. Completely natural. There are a couple things you can do. You could try to bully your way through. That for some people that works. For me, I probably wouldn't, because I probably wouldn't, as the human being that I am, I probably wouldn't be able to continue. I could bully my way through 3 or 4 days, maybe a week of working on this book, and then again, grief and depression and sadness might rush in because it is surrounding that book and that time of loss. Um, you may do well with pushing through. You can always give it a try. The book is not lost. What did you say here? What do I do about my lost novel? The book is not lost. The book is also healing as you are healing. We never recover from a great loss, I don't think, but we grow around the wound. We repair ourselves. We get stronger. We become better human beings because of the wound. We become stronger in the long run, but we never completely heal. And I don't even know that we want that. If we completely heal, that means there's no more love in our heart to give to that person. Giving love to a person who isn't there is inherently painful. And I want that kind of pain to remain in my own life in a manageable, quote unquote, healthy way, right? If I were in your shoes, which I am not, I might give that novel, which is not lost, it is just healing along with you, maybe a little bit more time as I work on something else. Is there something else that is generative and fun and healing for you to think about writing? Could you pour yourself into the writing for a few months of something completely different, or the next book in the series, or just something that is not directly connected with your mother? As you are working on something else, you're healing around the writing, and there will be a day where your heart goes, oh, not only do I think I should work on that book, but I want to. I can't wait to open the Kindle and see what's there. And oh, it's gonna hurt because I'm gonna be thinking about my mom, but I really, really want to do it. You get to wait until that point, or you get to wait until you're closer to that point. You're not doing anything wrong. There's no hurry on this. I know it always feels like there is for all of us, or for many of us, it feels like there's a hurry, but there's no hurry around this. Give yourself the space and the grace to allow rest and strength to build up again around it. Again, the novel is not lost. You said, do I let it sit longer and hope the feelings either fade or evolve? I think that evolving is what feelings, deep feelings like that, more regularly do rather than fading. They will evolve into something, and you will be able to use the feeling and the healing and the knowledge that you grow into. Sorry for all the beeps and bings. Sorry. It's 5 till something is going to happen. So everything's binging. You will be able to use that in the revision of that book when you are ready, and there's no hurry to get there. I'm really glad that you asked this question. Grief is something that we don't talk about often enough, I think, when it comes to writing. It's really important. 6 months is not, oh my gosh, no, 6 months since the book was finished. Your mother died 6 weeks ago. Please give yourself so much grace and love and patience and time and space. The book's not going anywhere. You are getting stronger day by day, sometimes even though it doesn't feel like it sometimes. But you are getting stronger. So please keep going. And the book is waiting for you. And you will know when it's the right time. Some people bully themselves into it. Other people like me wait until the book says, hey, I'm over here. Are you ready? And I say, oh, I am ready today. I will do that. So I hope that helps, Kylo. Thank you so much for asking. If anybody else wants to become a patron at that level, that's over at patreon.com/Rachael, Rachael. And boy, it's my honor to speak to that. And thank you again for asking. All right, let's jump into the interview before more beeps and bloops start happening on my computer and make noises on the recording. Here's the bio for Tasha. Tasha Coryell lives in St. Paul, Minnesota, with her husband, toddler, and greyhound. She holds an MFA in creative writing and a PhD in composition and rhetoric from the University of Alabama. Her book of short stories, Hungry People, was published by Split Lip Press in 2018, and her debut novel from Berkeley is called Love Letters to a Serial Killer, and it is out now. Please enjoy this fabulous interview. I know that you will. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, and thank you for doing your own writing. It's really important. We need your writing. Okay, here we go. Thank you. Well, I could not be more pleased to welcome you to the show. Would you please share your name and your pronouns with us?
Yeah, my name is Tasha Coryell, and my pronouns are she, her.
Fantastic. We are recording this a little bit before the show will go out. And by the time it goes out, your debut novel, Love Letters to a Serial Killer, will be out. But as we're talking, it's probably what, how long away is it now? Is it next week?
We're a little bit under 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. End of June.
The French version comes out tomorrow, but I don't know anyone in France, and I don't actually have a French copy myself. So I just look at pictures online.
Oh, that is so cool. That is so exciting. How are you feeling about the launch and everything coming up?
I am excited, but I will also admit that I'm very anxious. And people are like, well, what is it that you're anxious about? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just anxious. Like, I think it's just
Yeah.
like the anticipation of like this big thing that I've been working towards like my entire life is suddenly happening. It feels very unreal. Like, even when I got the book deal, they were like, oh, yeah, it's going to come out in summer 2024. And I was like, that's not a real time. That's never going to be here, and now it's here, so it feels very weird.
I think you're saying it perfectly because, I've always wondered, like, why did I get so anxious with my first book coming out? And that's it. This is something I've been working toward for so long. How am I going to know what it feels like? I don't know. So, oh, that's so awesome. It's going to be so fun. I hope you have like a big party or launch thing planned. Do you have anything like that?
Yeah, so I'm doing a launch reading at a bookstore in Minneapolis, Majors and Quinn, on June 25th when the book comes out, which is very
Fabulous.
exciting. I remember, so I'm from St. Paul, but I just moved back to the area last year. And I remember like looking at the Majors and Quinn website, and I was like, and they had like a thing that was like, oh, we're all booked for readings for like the upcoming season. And I was like, oh, I wonder like how I could get in to have a reading there. So it's very exciting to like now be one of the people that has an upcoming reading there. And then
I
I'm
love that.
doing like a separate party for like friends, just for myself, because
Yes.
I feel like it's really important to like celebrate on your own terms, right? Like no matter
Yes.
how many copies the book sells, no matter what people think about it, I just want to like eat a cake with my book cover on it and like have my friends there.
That is exactly right. I didn't have a reading the night the book came out, but I had my friends over and then we had this caravan plan to go to all the different bookstores in the area to see if we could find a copy, but it happened to be at the very first bookstore I went to face out, and it was so huge and such a celebration. And then we just went to a bar and got drunk, and that was fantastic. It was the best. That was the best party.
Yeah,
So
my party is planned for a bar. It's a gay soccer bar in St. Paul, the Blackheart. So it's going to be a great time.
fabulous. I love that. It's going to be awesome. All right. Will you please tell us a little bit about your writing process? What does it look like? How do you write? How do you get it done?
Yeah. So I'm a very compulsive person and basically everything I do, like I just like to do the same things every single day because those are the things that I like to do and I do them all the time.
Yeah.
Um, so right now I'm in a position where I'm writing full time, which is great. So usually what I do is I get to work in the morning. And what's so funny to me is before I was writing, I was teaching English at the university level, which I really loved. Like I loved teaching, but it was still hard to go to work. But now that I'm writing, I'm so excited to get going.
Yes.
And in the winter time, it gets really competitive to get a table in the coffee shop where I work. So sometimes I get there at like 7:30 in the morning just because I'm like, oh, it's time to go write. Like I gotta go write. So I always write first thing in the morning. I'm like a really big believer in like having a fresh brain. My brain
Mhm.
gets very mushy like after 2
Me too.
p.m. So yeah, so I try to get all my writing done before then. Um, and one of my big things is at the coffee shop I go to pretty much every day, I don't have the Wi-Fi password. And so I can't log into Wi-Fi. And I try to keep my phone put away for as long as possible
Yes.
so that I can just really focus on my work. So I try to write usually around like 2 to 3 thousand words a day. I'm very much someone who just like pushes through. I don't edit as I go. I'm just like, I gotta let these sentences be. I just like gotta get through this portion. I can go back and edit later. And then later in the day, if I have more like editing sort of tasks or like if I want to like listen to what I wrote, I'll do that then when I don't need as much focus. But I have these like really few precious hours in the morning where I'm really zoomed in and focused. And like even when I was teaching, I still did the same sort of thing. Like I've always written first. Like that is it's my priority. So I do it before I do anything else.
I love that. And I just love this image of you getting to the up bright and early to race to get to the cafe. That is ideal. We can't wait. I'm the same way. I can't wait to get to work. You did say you sometimes later on in the day, if you're doing editing or you also listen to it. How do you listen?
Yeah, so Microsoft Word has a function that it'll read what you wrote back to you. Uh, the voice recently got much better, which I think is an AI
Oh,
thing, which makes me feel, I don't know. It'll read what you wrote back to you, and it's embedded like within the software. And I have to do that because I have a really hard time taking in my own work. So like with typos and stuff, I never see them. And then I think that all writers do this thing, but I'll reuse the same word like over and over again within a single paragraph. It's like it just gets lodged in my brain. And it doesn't matter how obscure the word is. It's like, oh, this is the word you're using now. We're going to use it in every sentence.
it can be
So,
obscure or not obscure. Sometimes I like overuse a fancy $10 word, and then sometimes it'll be the word door, where I use the word
yes,
door four
yeah,
times in a paragraph. Yeah.
yes. Yeah. And so I like need to weed that out.
Yeah.
And like it's amazing to me. Like sometimes there are just like full sentences that I'm like, wow, that does not mean anything. Because I was typing, and I'm sure when I typed it, I knew what I was saying in my brain, and it just like did not come out through my fingers.
I am really resonating with this. Exactly. What is the most exciting thing that you've ever learned about your writing process?
I think the most exciting thing that I've ever learned, I the thing that I'm most proud of in myself as a person is that I am very persistent and very goal oriented. Like, I understand, like, I'm sure we all know those writers who are just like geniuses and they just like came out of the room and they're like, ah, yes, I know how to write. And, I was always fine at writing, but I never felt like I was like innately the best writer in the room. But the thing that I'm really good at and something I really like about myself is that I just like continue to work at it. And I decided that I wanted to become a writer when I was really young. And I did everything that I could possibly do to become a writer. Like I had multiple teachers not tell me directly, but like say, like, you don't have to be a writer. It's okay. And I was like, no, it's not okay. I have to be a writer. And I've been very persistent in that goal. And so it's just,
Yeah.
I really like that about myself.
Yes, that you, another way of saying that is that you're just incredibly stubborn. And I
Yes.
love that. I feel like talent only can go so far with people, and then stubbornness will take us so much farther. And I am like you. More stubborn than most other people. And it's fabulous. It's fabulous for a writer. What part of writing do you struggle with most?
I would say the thing that I struggle with most is editing, not in the sense like I'm fine getting critiques. Like it's like I like to help make the story better. Um, I just what I love the most is like that initial drafting process. And so, like right now, for my next book, I'm on like the fourth draft, and I'm at the very end of the fourth draft, and I just am having to like drag it out of myself because I like have been working and reworking this novel for so long. And I'm like, oh, I just want to write something new. I just want to get
Yeah.
that feeling back. And so I do want to make things better, but it's just like not as fun and exciting as writing that first draft. And I think a lot of people feel that way.
So how do you make yourself do it? Is it just the sheer pressure of the deadline or
I well, right now I have a side novel that I'm working on that no
aha.
one has read or looked at. I'm
Yes,
really excited to get
the
back to the
sparkly
side novel.
reward. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say I'm very self-motivated. So it's not necessarily about the deadlines that other people set. It's more about my own deadlines. So I usually have a certain number of words I want to get down per day, or like a certain amount that I want to edit per day. And that's really motivating for me. Um, so last year I completed a PhD, which was like not in creative writing, but writing my dissertation, I did not enjoy. Academic writing's fine, but I just don't like it the way that I like creative writing. And I
Yeah.
think doing a PhD in like like a non-creative field really helped me realize how much I love creative writing. But I had to write this dissertation. I already knew my book was coming out, and I was like, I just have to get it done. So I just kept saying to myself, there's no way out but through. And
Mhm.
just like every day I would sit down and write as much as I possibly could. Like, and I did not have fun while I was doing it, but I just did it. Like it was like I just have to get through it, and then I'll be on the other side. And now I'm on the other side, and things are
The,
great.
the only way out is through. That is a very good mantra. That's an incredible mantra for the hard times. I love that. What are you incredibly good at writing wise?
I'm incredibly good at I something I say a lot is that I'm not precious.
Hmm.
So there are some people who grow very attached to every single sentence and making it perfect. And that's great. Like I'm sure that their first drafts look so much better than my first drafts. But Uh, I just like am so good at just like writing things and letting it be and just moving forward. I also would say that I am really good. I take writing very seriously, but I don't take myself like too seriously as a writer. Like writing is really important to me, but like, I understand where my weight in the world is. Like I'm like, this isn't the biggest thing in the world. Like I'm a writer, it's fun.
That's
But
super,
there are also
super
other things.
healthy. That is so, so healthy. What would you say to a newer writer who is still feeling, and we won't even call it precious because they probably don't know it's precious, but they're still feeling like I put those on the I put these ideas on the page. How can I get rid of them? What if I don't come up with more? Like, what would you say to them?
One of the things that I would say is that a real breakthrough for me, I think, in terms of writing, and this is really counterintuitive because I do have like a book coming out, but I think that you just have to let go of this idea of writing for other people. Like when I write, I'm trying to write a novel that I personally would enjoy reading.
Yeah.
And it might sound conceited to say, but I really enjoy my own writing. Like,
Hmm.
if you don't enjoy your own writing, I'm not sure why people are writing. And I sort of had this like moment where I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter if and this was before I got the book deal. It was like, it doesn't matter if I ever get the book published because I've written a bunch of novels that aren't published. Like,
Hmm.
it took me a long time to get an agent. It was like, it doesn't matter if I ever get a book published. I'm just going to keep writing novels because I love to write novels. And I think that really helps take some of the pressure off, is not
Yeah.
immediately thinking about the audience and how they're going to receive it because you're writing for you in that moment. And when you are writing for an audience, hopefully you're going to have an editor who's going to help you like weed out the things that aren't working.
Exactly, exactly. But I love that about writing for ourselves. We talk about like writing for one person or writing for a group of people, but for me, my best work always comes from when I'm either writing for myself now or myself at a different age and what I needed then. You know,
Yeah,
what I would have wanted
that
to
makes
find and
sense.
I couldn't find. I love that. What is the kindest thing that you've ever done for yourself as a writer?
That I think is a really difficult question. So I have an answer that it sort of involved temporarily feeling bad about myself. But I mentioned earlier that it took a long time to get an agent. And the reason why it took so long to get an agent was because I would like query a couple of agents and then they would say no, or they like wouldn't get back to me. And I'd be like, oh, okay. And then I would just like go write another novel because like writing novels is so much more fun than querying
The
agents.
querying.
Like I just
Yes.
like didn't want to do it. And then I in like December 2021, I was pregnant and I got into like this big reading slump where I just like desperately needed to escape because I did not enjoy being pregnant. And I was in a reading slump where I just kept reading books that were not satisfying. And I had the novel that is now Love Letters to a Serial Killer. And I was like, you know what? I think this is more enjoyable than a lot of things that I'm reading. Like, I think that this should be published. And I was
Yeah.
like, I'm going to get an agent. So I used essentially the beginning of my maternity leave in order to get an agent. And so what I did is I just made myself sit down and query an agent almost every day for a period of time. And I had this like fantasy. I was like, I'm going to have a baby, I'm going to get an agent, I'm going to sell my book. It's all going to come together for me. And then as it turned out, the person who is now my agent, Katie Greenstreet, I was supposed to meet with her on a Wednesday. And then I was induced into labor on a Monday, and my baby was born on a Tuesday. So I emailed her from the hospital. I was like, hey, I'm actually pregnant. Can we reschedule our meeting? Which we did. And she later told me that she was worried that I had signed with someone else because I started my email with like, unfortunately.
And that's what she saw. Right. Right.
Yeah, but the whole process was really difficult and I cried a lot. Like I was in my third trimester of pregnancy. Like it was really stressful. I was querying agents. I got like a lot of requests for my manuscripts, but then I also like got some rejections. And it's really hard when you're in this emotionally vulnerable place and people are also rejecting your book. But I just like pushed through it and it did all come together. Like I had a baby. You might be able to hear him in the background. Like I sold my book and it, it was sort of like this magical thing, but it really took just like having a moment with myself where it was like, I need to do this. Like, I need to really seriously sit down and query agents because I have all of these novels and I have all these novels I want to write. I need to make this happen for myself.
Again, that is really exemplifying that idea of the only way out is through. You
Yeah.
you were not going to get an agent until you sat down and did the hard labor of while you're actually doing hard labor birthing. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that story. And then your agent did believe you. You had a baby to show off. There was a baby right there. Will you please tell us about a specific moment when you knew that you had ink in your veins?
Yeah, I actually have a very specific moment.
Yay.
So I went to kind of a hippie elementary school. Uh, Apparently just a normal elementary school now, which is really disappointing. But it was like very focused on like hands-on learning. We didn't really take tests. We just like made art. And I'm still not a good test taker. And I'm really bad at math. And I blame the school because I just had like these hippie teachers who couldn't do math either. But we did have creative writing time every single day. When I was in second and third grade, we had like combined classrooms of multiple grades. And I had this teacher, Rosemary Lynn, who was very into reading. She introduced me. As a kid, I really loved the writer Roald Dahl. And I
Mm,
understand that he's problematic in a variety of ways, but I loved his writing when I was a kid. And she
mhm.
like introduced me to his work. And so we created writing time every day. And I had this moment where I had like a draft of a story I'd written, and I was just like standing there waiting for feedback. I just remember standing there and like seeing my hands like holding the paper. And I was like, oh man, I'm like such a weirdo. Like, this is all that I want to do. I had a creative writing professor later in college who was like, every writer has a moment where they're sitting under a tree and realize that they're different from other people. And that was my moment. There was just something about like the way that my hands looked and the way that I felt when I was standing there that I realized that that was like the most comfortable space for me, but it's not necessarily the most comfortable space for everybody.
I think that is beautiful. And what an image to hold in your mind. And you knew at the moment that it was important. And you know now that it's important that writers, we do have that moment where we don't fit. We're not like everybody else. Everybody else is willing to stop doing the writing when the teacher says stop. And those of us aren't. We just want to keep going. Oh, that is
Yes.
gorgeous. Thank you for sharing that. While you're sharing, would you mind sharing the best book that you have read recently and why did you love it?
I really loved Yellowface
Oh
by R.F.
my gosh.
Kuang. I'm
Was
reading
it
the Poppy Word trilogy right now, which is very different,
so
which is
different,
why
right?
yeah, like I think it's such an amazing talent to like be able to go to different genres like that. But I read Yellowface in a single day last fall, and it was both like wonderful and horrifying, especially as like a white writer who has like their debut coming out. You're like, oh my God. Like
I just found it
but
one of the most hilarious books I had read in so long, but also one of the most exactly
yes,
like you said, hilarious and terrifying and horrifying. And she just did such a every line of it was a tiny microaggression. And I can only imagine that it was so cathartic to write, to have
I so
published.
I also read Babel, which is another book that she
I
wrote
haven't
that's
read
like
that.
fantasy, but it so I know just like based off her bio that she spent time in graduate school. And I spent so much of my life in graduate school because I did an MFA in creative writing, which is in a program that lasted for 4 years. And then I did a
Wow.
PhD for 5 years. So I was in grad school for 9 years. And Babel really, it's just about universities the way that Yellowface is about the publishing
Oh, I
industry.
have to go
Like,
get it.
yeah, it really sort of jabs at like administration and this idea of whether universities are like good or evil and like yeah, and so I it had those same sort of jokes but in like a fantasy setting. But there were all these moments where I was like, wow, this is the book that I needed. Like after being in grad school for 9 years.
I have I have talked to some people also who have read Yellowface and they're not anywhere even in the publishing industry. They're not writers, they're just readers and they're like, I don't know if I quite got it. I'm like, oh, that's okay because you don't need to.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's the weird thing about the writing world is you try to explain things to other people. Like I'm in a book club where most of the people aren't writers. Like there's like a biology professor, and they're like, "What?" Every time I try to talk about things in the writing world.
Oh, that's amazing. Will you please tell us a little bit about Love Letters to a Serial Killer?
Yeah, so it is about a woman, Hannah, who she works for a nonprofit where she's sort of underappreciated. She's not compensated well. She's not very motivated in the workplace. So she gets really involved in this true crime case of a serial killer. And she eventually starts writing letters to the accused serial killer, first sort of condemning him for his actions. And then over time, she falls for him and she ends up leaving everything in her life to travel across the country to go see his trial. Um, and she eventually meets him, and she has to figure out whether or not he's actually guilty of the crimes that he's been accused of.
This sounds so delicious, and I cannot wait to read it. Honestly, like it's just pushing all of my catnip buttons. So thank you very much for writing it. I can't wait. And can you tell us where we can find you out there?
Yeah, so I'm very active on the now dying platform of Twitter, which I suppose is X, but it's Tasha with 7 A's.
Okay.
And then you can also find me on Instagram. The name is Tasha Coryell. And then I recently got a TikTok that I'm still figuring out because I'm 36 and I don't know how to make videos very well, but I'm working on it. And so you should follow me there because I'm trying to get more of a following, and that's Tasha Coryell Writer. Because I was like, oh, if I put writer in there, people are going to know that I'm a writer. I
Very
don't know if
smart.
yeah, yeah. I'm still working on things. But
Awesome.
I'm pretty active online, so
Okay.
you can find me out there. Oh, I also have a website, tashacoryell.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being on the show today. It was such a pleasure to talk to you, and I can't wait to read this book.
Yeah, thank you for having me.